last video I shot outside. The audio didn't work. So I took out the mic. It might be a bit echoey in here, so apologies. I got a mega tan just being out in the sun. Like really truly I got super tan. But anyway, I wanted to jump on here and pose the question, who would you be in the absence of your concerns? Who would you be in the absence of your fears or your concerns? And I really want you to think about that, because I, for the longest time, was driven by my fears. I used to think like the more I attached to them, the more that I would, anticipate something bad happening, or, trying to predict what I could do or control, as opposed to surrender to what is actually unfolding. It just caused me tremendous amount of suffering. It really did. So I want to share the message with you today. I want to pose the question back to you. And that is, who would you be? Truly, who would you be in the absence of those concerns and your fears? And in this video, I want to also reframe fears as unspoken desires, which is something that I did last year. I made a video on that last year. And we can come full circle. But I really do want us to explore that today. Let's explore that. What does it look like to live life where you're not driven by your fears? Okay, what's that look like? How would you show up? How would you present yourself? How would you communicate? Who are the people you'll have in your life? Who are the people you want to communicate with? Who are the people that nourish you? These are the questions that we ask, but like, if we don't actually develop the awareness, and if we don't actually develop and maintain a sense of sovereignty and interdependence, and also just humility, then we won't be able to actually let those unspoken desires unfold, and we'll be so paralyzed by the contrast. We'll be so paralyzed by the fear that we'll continuously stay in that fear vibration. So I'm really trying to like pose that back to you. Maybe think of something that's happened in your life. Maybe something had transpired and you didn't expect it to happen, and then you're just like, oh my gosh, I can't let that happen again. But to know that there's so many things that are beyond our control. There's so many events that are beyond our control, and the more that we try to cling and attach and hold on to these things, the more we relinquish our own sovereignty, the more we relinquish our own ability to exude joy and freedom and vitality. Like truly we do. And it's interesting because that question I had gotten from Peter Crone, the mind architect. I follow a lot of Peter Crone stuff. He's very fascinating. I like encourage you to check him out. But I didn't really understand it when I first heard that question. And the more that I've unraveled it over the years, I mean, I've been sitting with it for years, but the more that I've unraveled it, the more I actually learn about myself, the more I learn about sifting through the contrast, and the more that I learn that there is an ability for us to not necessarily attach to it, but lean into it. We can lean into it without making it our entire identity. We can lean into it without making it our entire persona or our entire lived experience on this planet. And if you really think about it, there's so many people that just are driven by fear, right? Maybe their career is driven by fear. Maybe their way of expressing in the world is driven by fear. Maybe they're like economically, like there's so many avenues you can go down. And I mean, I don't blame people, because there's so much fear mongering in the world. There's so much fear mongering. Turn on the news, it's like, be afraid of this, be afraid of this, be afraid of this, be afraid, don't go outside at this time, don't do this, don't look up, don't look down. The planet is burning. Like everything is like a fear tactic, and for what gain, and for what and for what really, if you think about it. So really learning to be able to dismantle what is first being projected onto you. Also understanding where your fears originate from. Like, are they yours? Were they something that you learned? Is it something that you really experienced yourself, or is it a vicarious fear through somebody else? Those are important questions to ask. And then to know that if you don't attach to anything, if you truly don't attach to anything, nothing can hold on to you. Like nothing has power over you. Not even your mind, right? So the more you can just lean in and reframe the narrative to be that of, you know what? I didn't really understand that on the flip side of this is what I actually really wanted. This is what I really wanted to express. And if you see it through that lens, rather than the fear of like, I can't have this happen to me, I can't have this happen to me, I can't have this happen to me, then you can do something. You can actually pivot, or you can actually lean in and go towards it. So I really encourage you to reframe that. So maybe like you can write down a fear if you want. You don't have to like air all your dirty laundry, but for me, I'll start, okay, I'll start. When a few years ago, I had written in my journal, I had a few fears, but one of them was fear of being alone. And by alone, I mean like not ending up in partnership. That was a genuine fear of mine that comes from a very pure place. I know that comes from such an earnest place because I've seen people in my life who've really suffered. I've seen people who've really suffered and have felt alienated from themselves and have been so detached from themselves and had such a dependence on others, and weren't able to cultivate that interdependence or that self-love. And so I saw that and I was like, I don't want that to happen to me. And that was a genuine fear. And the more that I lean into that, and the more that I attune to myself and know what my true desires are and what I want, the more abundance and love and joy that I bring in. It's so true. I promise you, it's so true. And so I had that, I wrote it down and I was like, what if this comes true? What if by me just paying my attention to it, then it's gonna come true, it's gonna manifest? And it's like, no, by you having the awareness of it, by you being able to understand exactly where you're at in life, right? And where your head is at, and to come at it with radical acceptance, the more you can change, the more that actually catapults you to change. So I encourage you to write out, let's say 3 of your fears. If you want to share them, you can down below. That was one of mine. And the way that I reframed it, and then, so on the one piece of paper, you can write, what are your fears? And then on the other side of the paper, you can write, what does this actually reveal in terms of an unspoken desire? Like what message can I extrapolate from this? What lesson can I learn from this that it's actually showing me and sifting through that contrast? And you can maybe like even draw like an arrow to show like, okay, this is the connection, or maybe it's a Venn diagram. I don't know, it could be whatever. I know that's like interesting for like ikigai and like different like Japanese frameworks for like understanding your purpose and fulfillment. Like there are other models out there, but maybe just start off simply like, what are your fears? And then just putting on the side, what does that translate to into unspoken desires? And for me, the way that that reflected was, I am looking for true connection. I'm looking for intimacy. I'm looking for partnership. I'm looking for somebody who is going to be of service just like me, and who wants to who really is on fire with life and is vibrant and wants to put out and create in this world. And so how can I actually model that within myself first? And so like that could be an unspoken desire. The unspoken desire also is that I'm really looking to be discerning and selective with my choices. I want to be able to create like boundaries and proper containers and communication where I can carve that out, and then it's not dependent, and then I'm not, looking, I'm just like, scarcely looking like, oh, this is what my future is going to end up like. I only have this amount of options. If you really pay attention to your thoughts, if you pay attention to the way in which you are creating that narrative and where you're starting to identify those blind spots, you will be able to I'll stuck up with my words. You will be able to reveal that contrast, and you will be able to clearly delineate, okay, this is what I'm actually really fond of, and this is something that I maybe don't want to put so much attention into. And that doesn't mean that your entire attention is enveloped in that fear. It just means that you have revealed something new about that. That's all that means. It's like you've just revealed a different truth from like 2 sides of that same coin. So I hope that can help. I really hope that can help. And to just understand that, like, I understand that like the norm is to be scared, right? Like, especially if you've lived in survival mode, then the norm is to be scared and to be hyper vigilant and to be like constantly, predicting what's going to happen next, but that's not going to help. It's not going to help. And I'm saying that in the most loving way, like by you trying to control and by you trying to like cling on to something and be like, okay, well, if I can't face this, then this is what's going to happen. Like, I promise you could face anything. You could face anything as long as you develop the awareness and actually create the safe container for you to lean into it in a way that is safe and makes sense to you. So yeah, that's my message for today. I would love to know how you show up when you are not being driven by your fears, right? Like what is that unspoken desire to you? Maybe let me know in the comments, what is that unspoken desire? How did you kind of transform that into an unspoken desire? And like, if you think about it, like 60, 70, 80 years from now, like think, like, you're on your deathbed, okay? You're on your deathbed. Who do you want to be there? Like, who do you want to have cultivated relationships with? Who did you want to get to know? How did you want to connect with people? What are the projects and fulfillments that you want to put out in the world? Like, these are important questions to really ask now, because like the more that we like let it just, you know, fester and like it becomes this like big dark void, this big shadow of like, oh, I don't know what this is, but like I'm just gonna suppress it and not even think about it, like I don't want to think about it, then it just, we give it more power than it ought to have. We just give it so much more power, and it doesn't have to be that scary. It is scary, but it doesn't have to be. Like, we don't have to add any self-imposed suffering on top of that. So I hope this is an empowering exercise for you, because it was for me. I was really able to recalibrate my focus. I was really able to recalibrate my energy and focus on the things that I am truly passionate and desire and fulfill in my life. I want to fulfill in my life and my purpose and my vision and my mission. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful to untangle it. It's a lifelong process. It's a lifelong journey. It's not a one-stop thing. It's not like, oh, we made it. You know, it's a constant development. And that's the beauty in that process. And there's going to be new ones that come up. There's going to be new ones that surface. And I promise you there will be. But to know that you have the power and the cognition and the heart and the integrity and the bravery to go, and the strength to do it. You really do. You really do. And it doesn't have to have control over you. So lean into it. I you know, encourage you to reflect on it. I encourage you to really just meditate on it. See, like, contemplate what that means for you, and maybe different insights will come up in different seasons. So hopefully you have a great rest of your day, and sending you lots of love and lots of grace. And I apologize if the audio is not the greatest. I will get better, okay? I tried. This is the third time I tried because outside was not working, and anyway, you don't need to know all that. Okay, bye.